Liberal leader Mark Carney is holding a campaign event in Delta, BC. Let's take you there live.
People's livelihoods, from the auto industry in Ontario to the forestry workers here in British Columbia, those livelihoods being put in jeopardy. The U.S. is again targeting the Canadian forestry industry by more than doubling the duties charged on softwood lumber. That decision, as well as with the other Trump tariffs, is unjustified, it is unwarranted, and it's fundamentally misguided. Canadian softwood lumber is integral to building homes across the United States. And the U.S. tariffs will only increase the cost of materials for American builders, and ultimately American homebuyers will pay the price. Nous ne pouvons pas contrôler le président Trump, mais nous pouvons contrôler nos propres actions.
Own actions.
Contrôler notre propre destiny.
We can control our own destiny. We are masters at home. We will answer with strength and clear objectives. We will fight. We will protect Canadians. And we will build a strong economy. We will fight with counter tariffs that will have maximum impact in the U.S. and minimal impact here in Canada.
We will protect Canadian workers and businesses using every single dollar that we collect from our counter tariffs. For workers across the country, my government has already made employment insurance more immediate and more generous. Pour soutenir les entreprises canadiennes, nous avons temporairement
to support Canadian businesses, we've temporarily delayed tax payments as well as GST and permanent HST. We've created new mechanisms of financing so they can access more liquidities, and we've increased the financing of regional development agencies.
We recently also invested over $20 million to boost the competitiveness and resiliency of BC's forestry sector. But above all, our response is to build. We will build a new Canadian economy, the strongest economy in the G7. We will build Canada strong. While the U.S. is trying to keep high-quality, sustainable Canadian lumber out, we will use more of it here in our plan to double the pace of housing construction in this country over the course of the next 10 years. This is the most ambitious housing plan since the Second World War. We will build our way out of the housing crisis. We will build our way out of the economic crisis. We will make housing more affordable in Canada once more. Because, as Gregor intimated, today's reality is that even when Canadians, particularly young Canadians, are doing everything right, they're getting a good education, they're studying hard, they're securing a well-paying job, they're saving up, they often barely have enough to pay the rent, let alone to afford a new home. On average, across this country, it takes over 4 years to save for a down payment. For first-time buyers, it's over 6 years. And in markets like Vancouver, much longer. This has been the most expensive housing market in the country for a very long time. So business as usual will not work. The status quo cannot stand. We need a new approach that recognizes that it's time to build. My government will flip the script on housing with a new strategy to build faster, smarter, more affordably, and more sustainably. We will address...
Okay, so we've been listening live to Liberal leader Mark Carney holding a campaign event in Delta, BC. He says that the livelihoods of Canadians are being put in jeopardy, from the auto sector to logging and lumber, because of Trump tariffs. Quote, we can control our own destiny. We will fight. We will protect Canadians. We will fight with counter tariffs. He also said that we will use more of our lumber to boost housing construction, to build our way out of the housing crisis. Let's go back live to Delta, BC. This is where Liberal leader Mark Carney is holding a campaign event, and he's speaking to reporters now.
Work on that. We talked about today's announcements and how that works to supply big support for demand here in the BC forest sector, and as well how we could integrate that with other housing measures. So all of that is, so we had quite a comprehensive discussion. With respect to the Fraser River Tunnel, I would say this. We have put in place, or we have proposed during the election campaign, a $5 billion fund for trade infrastructure, trade and commercial infrastructure, it would be, I fully understand the pressing need for progress here. You can just see it this morning driving here, but I understand it on a deeper technical level. So we're putting in place the tools. I expect to have very strong and productive cooperation with Premier Eby's government on this and other areas. Thank you.
Next question.
Good morning, Thomas Steele from Bloomberg News. Trump's so-called reciprocal tariffs come into effect tomorrow, and it seems like there's a bit of a queue now forming to negotiate with his administration, Japan, etc. They want to cut bilateral deals. So is there some pressure to get talks going now rather than waiting a month until the election is over? Well,
the first thing I'd say is that President Trump and I, in advance of the reciprocal tariffs, agreed that we would have a comprehensive negotiation after the election, which, as you know, is in less than 3 weeks' time, literally, potentially starting the day after the election. So the Prime Minister at that point, which I'm working very hard to earn the vote so that it would be me, but would begin those negotiations with the President. So that's the situation. I think we have to be realistic that during an election period, we have the ability, we ensured that we had the ability to respond to counter tariffs, but that is different than negotiating any element of a new agreement during what is a caretaker period of the government. Thank you.
Next question.
Hi, Jared Yeager here with the Western Standard. So yesterday at your rally, you said Pierre Poilievre's plan is to, quote, divide and be conquered. As of now, Canada is reliant on the U.S. to get our own oil from one side of the country to the other. By not repealing Bill C-69 and allowing Quebec to veto a pipeline across Canada, are you not yourself setting up Canada to be divided and conquered?
Absolutely not. In fact, in the premise of your question, you answer it, which is, if we are going to build, and I am a proponent of building big energy infrastructure in this country, but if we are going to build big energy infrastructure in this country, there is a we in that. It is not imposed. It is not imposed by the federal government. It's not imposed by an opposition politician. It's not imposed by a company. It requires the support of, in the example you gave, in Energy East of Quebec, the other provinces that are affected. It requires the support, the free, prior, and informed consent of First Nations. So that's the exact opposite, which is that coming together to build. Now, what I've proposed, both at the First Minister's level and more broadly, is that we as a country use this crisis to identify those projects of national interest, many of which, not all of which, but many of which are energy infrastructure projects, so that we can get those agreements, so that we can come together and we can accelerate. And last point, with respect to C-69, what I've also been clear about is the ability under C-69, not as it was, but as it is, and the Minister of Natural Resources, Mr. Wilkinson, is here, as it is under his leadership. We have an ability to rely on, as appropriate, impact assessments that are performed at different levels of government. And that is part and parcel of how we can make this work. So I reject the question, but I hope I've provided some illumination. Thank you.
Okay, so we've been listening live to Liberal leader Mark Carney. This is at a campaign event in Delta, BC. He's been taking questions. He was there talking about the forestry industry and the effect on lumber because of the Trump tariffs. He says that we will use more of our lumber to boost housing construction, to build our way out of the housing crisis. And when it comes to dealing directly with Trump, Carney says there will be a comprehensive negotiation after the election.